Hey peeps, welcome back to my channel and to the next episode of our dark mode series. In this episode we are going to learn how to abstract away our dark mode implementation from our views into our structs. Because our views don't really have to know about the implementation of dark mode, for example, how and where to store the information, whether it's on or off, or how the logic is around retrieving the theme, whether it's light or dark. All our views really have to know is what is the current theme and where to apply it to, right? Because every view applies it differently, for example, to a different background label table, for example. Let's dive right into it by swiping to the left like the last time. And we have left off last time with, for example, this struct here. It's the first thing that we can refactor by creating a new group and call it theme, and then creating a new file and call it theme as well, and just cut and paste the struct from here into that file. We will have to actually import UIKit, and that's it for that file. Now the fancy stuff. We are going to create a new file and call it theme manager, and that manager will actually be our implementation of dark mode. So let's leave import foundation because we will need it, and let's call the struct theme manager. And the first thing we want to introduce is a static let is dark mode key, that is dark mode key, that is saying is dark mode key, or actually it is just is dark mode. That should be enough. And the next thing we can do is having a static let var computed property that will tell us the current theme. So that gives us the current theme, which is a theme, and returns based on whether or not is dark mode on or off the current theme. So how to know whether it's on or off? Well, let's implement a function. Let's say static func is dark mode, right? Which returns a bool. And we have implemented that our toggle will store the information into user defaults, right? So let's retrieve it from there. Standard bool for the key is dark mode key. And let's return that value, because if there's no value set for that key because you have installed the app the first time, whatnot, then this value is false, which is fine. And then whenever there's a key, then the value will be retrieved that is stored alongside the key, false or true. So that's fine. We want to say, well, is dark mode, and then based on that, whether or not we want to return dark or .light. We can use dot notation because we know we are returning the theme. We don't have to say theme.dark here. So now we can retrieve with our theme manager already the current theme, and we can tell whether or not we are in dark mode or not. What we want to implement as well is actually enable dark mode and disable dark mode. So let's do that. Enable dark mode, which is doing, it's actually storing user defaults standard. It's storing the value true for the key is dark mode, right? And then it's also notification center default shouting, hey, dark mode has changed, right? Whenever we are storing a new value for dark mode, we want to also shout about that something has changed, right? So we're going to say post and then the notification name and object. And instead of having to notification name dot name write this one out, for example, dark mode has changed, right? Instead of writing this one out, we can actually extend notification dot name and say static let dark mode has changed. This variable is actually a notification name with that string. And now we can just say in here dot dark mode has changed, just like that. Way cleaner, because, and also more importantly, it's safer. So now when we are enabling it, we're shouting it and also storing it. And now let's do the same for the disable dark mode. And here already we see the benefit. We can just copy and paste that and say false for storing it. And we are using the same key here. We don't have to write it out, or right? Elsewise, we would have two times the name here with the string, write it out, and yeah, it's just error prone or bug prone. Anyway, so enable dark mode and disable dark mode is implemented. What we can also do is, since we know we want to add an observer for example, the digitistine, so it actually listens to whenever dark mode has changed was shouted, right? So, and this observer, if we look into it right here on the setup view, is quite long. It says self, and then it says a selector, then it has a name, but this name is always dark mode has changed, right? And then it has an object which is nil. We can shorten that, and we can say we want to implement a function here that says add dark mode observer, just like that. And then we want the parameter to be, let's say, labeled parameter observer, like this. And this is going to be any of type any, and because this is going to be self that we are passing in here, and a selector, so selector of type selector. Now we can in here say notification center add observer to observer, whatever got passed in here. Oh, one sec, this was the wrong one. We want the observer with the add. Oh, I have forgotten the default. Add observer with the selector one, this one. So we are passing in the observer, we are passing in the selector, and we know we want to have dark mode has changed as the notification name, and object is always going to be nil. Now, what we can do is, since we have abstracted this implementation away into a smaller implementation, we can go, for example, let's start off with digitistine in here, and instead of creating that name, we don't need that anymore, and we don't need to use that listener or observer anymore. We can say theme manager add dark mode observer to self and use the selector. What did we use? Enable dark mode. Just like that. It's shorter. And we also have to write less because we don't have to apply the name and so on. And so this is the dark mode function that gets executed. And in here, we don't have to retrieve the key whether or not dark mode is on anymore, because all we need is actually the theme, and that was just retrieving the key or value to then, based on that, know what the theme to take. All we have to do is say theme manager, give me the current theme, because that one is, if we look at it again, based on the function return value, which is based on the key stored in user defaults, right? So we get our current theme already. So that implementation alone is a lot cleaner. If we would now go on and clean up settings view controller as well, and in here, we don't need the name anymore. We don't need to store the key. All we have to do is let's take the toggle switch on and off. We don't have to shout about it anymore either. All we have to do is, based on the toggle, whether it's on or off, we want to enable or disable dark mode, right? So when it's on, we want to say theme manager enable dark mode, else theme manager disable dark mode. At this point, what is enable and disable dark mode doing? It is storing the value of true or false and shouting dark mode has changed. So at this line, we're storing the key. At this line here, we're just saying theme manager dot current theme, because current theme is based on a key that just got stored up here, right? Because we've switched the toggle. And now we can just say, well, current theme, and we're just using it right away, just like that. And I think that's it for the settings. And we can go to the last class, which is our custom cell. It also says dark mode has changed. We don't need that anymore. And we don't have to add the observer like that, but instead we say theme manager add dark mode observer self and use the selector enable dark mode down there, right? And in here we always say is theme manager current theme, and we don't need to retrieve the key anymore. Let's refactor that one into actually current theme, because I think that's how we named it in the settings VC2, right? And digitistine says, what does this one say? Digitist has also enabled it just says theme. Let's rename that one into current theme 2. Current theme. And that's already it for this episode, because we have abstracted away how dark mode is implemented into an own struct. So we have this manager actually taking care of it, and all we do is actually just using it, right? Just give me the current theme. And also it's more verbose that we are adding a dark mode observer, so we know, oh, all right, so this is actually listening at something regarding dark mode. In the next episode, we are going to learn how to abstract away even more code so that when we introduce new view controllers, navigation controls and whatnot, that we don't have to implement that one right over and over again in that function. But all we have to do is when we introduce new view controls and cells and whatnot, all we have to do is actually just tell what this cell looks like in dark mode and nothing more. It makes our lives way easier and faster when we go on and implement new things in our apps. And so if you don't want to miss out on that, hit subscribe. Other than that, if that video was helpful, you can help me by hitting like, leave a comment if you have any thoughts or feedback. Don't miss out on checking out the description box, because you can support me on Patreon, join the Discord community, or download every source code of every video that I do. Other than that, I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.